You hear that a lot from offensive coordinators and quarterbacks. Like, we would have been fine except for those turnovers. It's like saying, hey, the pizza was great except there was a big hair in it. Otherwise, delicious.
They're frauds.
And the
They're
Eagles.
frauds. They're
frauds. You're going to say it.
Would you take him for the Steelers?
You don't put me on the spot, Shazier. I put you on the spot.
I mean, that's a recipe for nightmare. I can't see the Chiefs this year going to the Super Bowl.
Brock Purdy better watch out. The QB from the NFC East, who posted the highest QBR of Week 14, has his team on a solid win streak, and he's got 3 straight weeks of 100-plus passer ratings.
It's true. Dak is playing some of the best football of his career.
Dak? No, I'm not talking about Dak. I'm talking about Tommy Cutlets himself, QB of the New York Football Giants, Tommy DeVito.
Murder on. From Wondery, I'm Ryan Shazier.
Wow, you're Italian, Shazier. Who knew? I'm Dave Damashek.
You know, some days you gotta learn a little bit of culture. This is Gridiron Gut Check.
Welcome to Gridiron Gut Check. Every week, I'm talking ball with Steelers legend, 2-time Pro Bowler Ryan Shazier. 5-0, you ready to give my hot takes a gut check from a player's POV?
Yeah, man, let's get it going, man. I'm ready for today.
All right, I'm not going to try to get real hot just for the sake of heat. I actually believe these things. And after the Niners shut down Jalen Hurts and the Eagles last week, Nick Bosa said the Cowboys should watch the tape, and apparently they must have after the boys stomped the Eagles. My gut's telling me it's time for Philly to be very afraid, even if they do wind up with the #1 seed after losing head-to-head against their 2 arch rivals for that Super Bowl trip this season.
So it's very easy for Nick Bosa to say that because Nick Bosa is on one of, or not, the best D-line in the NFL. They have Hargrave, they have him, they have Armstead, they have Chase Young. It's like you're literally just throwing everything at the kitchen sink. They're getting at the quarterback. So a lot of teams just can't do that. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys, they're able to do that. They have Michael Parsons, they have DeMarcus Lawrence. So they can rush the passer a little bit better than a lot of the teams, but a lot of most teams can't do that. And when Nick Bosa says, "Hey, we did the blueprint of beating the Eagles," most teams don't have the pass rush to get back there and force you to pass the ball early or force you to make errant throws. So for those teams, those elite teams, yeah, that's possible. But the Eagles, I already know what Coach Sirianni's saying right now in this type of situation. I know what both coaches are saying. The Eagles fumbled 3 times in the red zone or the high red area. So this game was a lot closer than it looked on TV. So Sirianni is basically saying, hey, the ball is in our court. They understand if they win out, they still win in the division, even though right now they're not winning the division. But if they win out, both them and the Cowboys both can win out. They're going to win the division. But then when it comes to McCarthy's side, he's just, hey, the ball is our court now. We just have to continue to take care of business. We showed the world that we can start beating teams with winning records. And now the pressure's on Philly because Philly has 2 slip-ups. But Dallas slipped up this year. They lost to the Cardinals. The 49ers took 3 in a row. So right now, this is a situation where the Eagles, they understand they just have to win out, and they have a very favorable schedule, while Dallas has showed everybody, hey, we're here to play.
Well, listen, the Cowboys, obviously, let's see how they do up in Buffalo this week as the Bills are scratching for their playoff lives. But where the Eagles are concerned, listen, I'm not one to overreact to 1 week's worth of evidence. I'm talking, and I'm not even just talking about those last 2 games, but it is not a small matter that it was against the Niners, by the way, in Philly, and then down in Big D. You say all the teams can't apply what the Niners and Cowboys do to try and slow down the Eagles. Well, as it happens, there's not going to be any Carolina Panthers or Arizona Cardinals to worry about in the playoffs. They're only going to be playing high-end teams. So I, in fact, would be worried, and I defer to you on this, the X's and O's of it. If Nick Bosa is saying if you have the pieces to go at this Eagles offense in this manner, we have given you the template, and you just saw the Cowboys whip them, but good. That's 2 in a row now. You say there's just nothing to that? That's what you're saying, Shazier? There's no scheme that you can catch something on tape and say, oh, that's what they like to do in that spot. We have to take that away, and that limits what that offense can do, right?
No, yeah, they definitely understand that you have to get out the Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts he's the playmaker over there. He's the guy he's the conductor. He makes everything run. But at the end of the day, they also fumbled the ball 3 times in the high red area. They also, so when you really think about it, they were in scoring position. They just didn't score those touchdowns. Those became turnovers. So if they actually put the ball into the end zone or even, kick field goals in those type of situations, this game is a lot closer than it actually was. And then now both of them have split, and the Eagles, they understand, hey, if we win out of the division, the only team that's probably going to have the number 1 seed over us is the 49ers. So we just have to beat everybody pretty much at home in Philly on grass, because the Cowboys don't play as well on grass as they do on turf when they're home. And the Eagles lost to the Cowboys in Dallas. But when they played in Philly, the Eagles beat them in Philly. So this is a type of situation where they understand that they just can't allow teams to run away. They got to take care of the ball better. But they do have to work on their O-line, because those last 2 games, the defense has really been getting after Jalen Hurts. And if they don't get back into this run game, it's gonna be a tough playoff run for the Eagles.
I'm telling you, listen, somebody else is going to have to do the heavy lift of knocking off those Niners at minimum for them. I can buy your case that if the Cowboys have to go to Philly in January, that might be a real tough spot for them. I do come back, though, to the idea that, the Eagles, whether they are in Philly or have to go to San Francisco, obviously they prefer the former there. I still think their goose is cooked if the Niners have to go out to them. And the excuse that, well, they turned the ball over a lot is sort of like saying, like, when people do that bit, you hear that a lot from offensive coordinators and quarterbacks, like, we would have been fine except for those turnovers, is like saying, hey, the pizza was great except there was a big hair in it, otherwise delicious. Well, it's fatally flawed at that point. So I would be very worried if I were the Eagles at this point, given who the 2 heavyweights in that conference and the way those 2 teams are playing right now. Then again, 4 games left, much hash to be settled. Let's move on then and stick around talking about these Eagles and the Cowboys and the Niners and the fact that they are in a 3-way battle for that NFC crown and a playoff bye. Is it fair to say that one of these 3 teams will hoist the Lombardi when it's all said and done? I guess you already have my opinion on that. I guess you could try to make a case for those fellas up in Motor City. Not playing great of late, though. How say you?
The way I think that this is all going to pan out, I think that the 49ers, they're probably going to win out all their games. They have a tough schedule to finish out, too. But I think they're going to win out their games. And what I mean by that is because they also have to play the Ravens. But
I think that's the tough one. That's the one tough one that the Niners have left, really.
Yeah, that's the one tough one, yeah. But the 49ers, in my opinion, the 49ers and the Eagles, in my opinion, are 2 heavyweights in the NFC. And obviously people can say, well, the Eagles just lost this and that. Me personally, I think that the Eagles, when they get Dallas in Philly in January, that game is heavily favored on Philly's side, because I just like how they're going to be able to run the ball when it starts to get cold and they're on the grass or the weather's not going well. Dallas can't use all they can't close the stadium. They can't do any of that. I think that all that's in favor of the Eagles. But when it comes to the 49ers, they remind me of a basketball team. They're all-star team. But the one thing, when you think about it, though, their offense is a basketball team, because when one of those key guys goes missing, man, you just don't know what can happen. Like, obviously their defense can withstand the test, but if Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuels go down, it's just like the Lakers when they lose Anthony Davis or they lose LeBron James. They look like a whole different team. And I know Brock Purdy, he's the man, but he also was not the man when he lost those guys. So to me, I think that the Super Bowl is going to run through Philly, or it's going to run through 49ers. But I think they're going to have to play each other. And with everybody being healthy, hopefully that can happen. That doesn't really happen that often in the playoffs. But if everybody's healthy, I think 49ers are the best team. But I think that when they go to the Super Bowl, the one team that nobody in the NFC wants to see is the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Baltimore Ravens might take the loss first, but people don't understand how to handle Lamar Jackson because they don't play him enough. So if Lamar Jackson finds his way into the Super Bowl, I don't think anybody in the NFC can beat them.
Well, if they get the number 1 seed, that'll get them a long way towards getting to that Super Bowl. 3 games playing the brand of ball. That, I mean, really at this point, as nip and tuck as it is, the distinction between the really, really good teams and the pretty good teams is sort of narrow. If you just get into the mix, I know you always hear that, just get into this tournament of January and see how it shakes out. It really is true, especially on the AFC side of things.
We want our team in there.
Well, I definitely am not. I am not so cynical about what's going on in Pittsburgh that I don't want the Steelers to wind up in there and see if they can make a little bit of hay. There is not a real heavyweight on the AFC side of things, and that includes Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's Chiefs. On the NFC side, it is a little bit different. The Cowboys still have to play the Dolphins. That's a tough one. The Cowboys have a tough path to try and win the division, let alone get the number 1 seed. The Niners still have to play the Ravens, and I would agree with you that you do not want to get your first look at Lamar Jackson in a big spot. Fortunately, the Niners are going to get just that in the regular season, and that's really Lamar Jackson's kryptonite, is a second bite at the apple with him. He tends to get got more often the second time around than he does the first time. So I would be a little bit scared about that. But if they get to the Super Bowl, I think Baltimore fans would be over the moon for that. And I think they would sign that right now, that get to the Super Bowl and see how it shakes out and have a rematch of what was that Super Bowl 43. Kaepernick v. Flacco. Very different look now. Hey, how about Joe Flacco? I don't know if you heard. He's back in the AFC North. Moving on. After Kadarius Toney's offside penalty cost the world a spectacular Andy Reid trick play touchdown with some Travis Kelce magic mixed in. I don't know if we have the assessment of who deserves credit for that one. Are we sure Andy Reid had anything to do with that, or was it Travis Kelce just doing that impromptu to impress his lady sitting in the stands there? Either way, the Chiefs are once again spending too much time complaining about the refs. They've tried to back it off a little bit in the last 24 to 72 hours. Nevertheless, the tape of number 15 belly aching and weeping and all the rest of it is out there. They need someone to step up on the offense, and Kelce, in my opinion, is the real culprit here. I mean, not that he's doing anything wrong other than playing football for many, many years in a row and is now 34, and most human beings slow down at that point. I think he's no difference, and this is what's negatively impacting the Chiefs' offense when the wideouts seem incapable of catching consistently collectively. How say you?
Dave, are you calling him washed?
I wouldn't call him washed. I would call him past his best days, though. Yeah, I would call him on the wrong side of his peak.
He has 4 games left, and he has 850 yards receiving. So, in my honest opinion, I think he's going to probably finish with 1,100 yards. Probably 1,100 yards. That is just pretty much just as good as any other season that he's had. Last year was his best season by far, but any other season he's had. But when you look at this team, it's very frustrating because when you watch the Chiefs, obviously everybody's going to double and triple and quadruple team Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid had nothing to do with that play. That was all Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, they gave him the ball. Travis was like, oh man, it's so many guys right here, but he's also played quarterback before, and he's seen his teammate was open because he was trying to make a play. His teammate wide open, boom, touchdown. The problem with this team is the receiver position lacks major focus, because when you think about drop balls in clutch situations, holding in clutch situations, offsides in clutch situations, just everything that you can imagine that can go wrong at a position, they have go wrong every single week with a different dude. Obviously, Kadarius Toney is the ringleader of the mistakes, but when you look at it, I understand that Travis Kelce didn't really complain, but I understand Pat was mad. I understand Andy Reid was mad. I know Pat came back out and said, hey, as the face of the league, that is wrong. I don't want any kids to think like that's okay to react like that when you lose or the situation doesn't go your way. So I respect him for that. But also, he was offsides. Like, if that was a defensive player, they will be begging him like, why? He's offsides. He's offsides. He's offsides. Kadarius Toney actually lined up offsides 4 times that game. And none of the times when he lined up did he check with the ref. As a receiver, you learn this in high school. When you line up on the ball, or basically you're supposed to be on the ball, like not on the ball, but on the ball, you check with the ref and say, hey, am I on or off? The ref will give you a thumbs up or thumbs down, or basically like no or yes. He didn't do that any of the times that he lined up in the neutral zone. So first of all, as a defensive player, I hate when offensive players complain and cry all game, because at the end of the day, the game is already built for you. So now that it's a situation where you're literally in the wrong, you can't complain about that. But when it comes to this team, you could tell that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're very not flustered, but they're upset. I'm trying not to cuss. I almost cussed. It's just, right now, they're just really upset about just the situation that they're in when it comes to the reffing, when it comes to players not making plays, when it comes to just the position that they're in. Everybody's like, oh, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. The Chiefs still are one of the best teams in the whole AFC. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to do well. They have Patrick Mahomes, but they're having too many issues every single week. And Patrick Mahomes, I do trust. But if you don't have people that you can trust to make the right play, be consistent all the time, it's really hard for you to win. And you can't trust the people that you're putting out there on the field, because you don't know if they're going to make a mistake in a critical moment. Because if we've watched 3 games this year, for sure, that the Chiefs have lost because of plays that their receivers missed. You know, the first game versus the Lions, Kadarius Toney couldn't catch a cold. You know, with Valdez-Scantling, he dropped the bomb versus the Eagles. This game, you line up off sides. Those are 3 instances right there. And it's like, we're losing games based off of simple plays that you learn in Pee Wee. So this is an issue that they're going to have to fix. And I know you said Travis is not the same player as he's always been, but he's still, you know, top 1 receiver, top 1 tight end in receiving, top 3 in catches. I think he's doing the best he can, but he doesn't have much help when it comes to other people around him being consistent.
Well, first of all, by the way, with that MVS catch, to go back to our previous subject there, the Eagles, you know, if MVS catches that one, that's 3 straight losses for the Eagles. So then the sky really would be falling there on the east side of Pennsylvania. Either way, back to the subject at hand, these Chiefs and their schedule sets up. I think the concern about where the Chiefs are going to slot in the AFC playoffs is legit to the extent that they always have home field. And now it would appear that they're probably going to, at some point, going to have to go on the road. Even that's not settled yet, though, because if you look at what they have coming down the stretch, they should win all those games. It's a chance to get right. What's going to happen in January against the better teams, though, remains a concern. And I get you on where Kelce's numbers are this year and how they stack up to his career. But the only season that really matters, given this new-ish offense, now 2 seasons removed from Tyreek Hill moving to Miami, is that Travis Kelce's numbers have to be that, because he is always the X factor in this offense. But even more so once Tyreek Hill left, he has to be central to everything they do. And so any slip in that number, especially with the drops that all the wideouts have, should be a legitimate concern. The best news I have for the Chiefs out there is ain't no heavyweight, like we said 10 minutes ago and like we've been saying for the last 3 months now. The AFC just doesn't have a dominant team. So I think the Chiefs have a chance to wind up where they typically wind up these days, in the Super Bowl.
I can't see them making it to the Super Bowl. I don't think there's many juggernauts, but I just don't see with the defense that the defense that the Browns are playing. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but the defense that the Browns are playing, the defense that the Ravens are playing, and also the Steelers just can't put up points. But the way that some of these defenses are playing, with them creating turnovers, and I remember when we played against Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's arm was not the same. Coach Tomlin literally told the DBs, sit at 20 yards because he can't throw the ball over your head. So if obviously you know Patrick Mahomes can do that, but if you're guarding guys that you don't respect and you're like, oh, I'm not worried about him. Like, you know that he can go deep, but you know that he might drop the ball. He's not consistent. If I'm in the area, like he loses focus. you're not worried about those guys. So if they go against the Ravens who DBs are going to like basically be in your grill, then I'm getting after Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's a recipe for nightmare. I can't see the Chiefs this year going to the Super Bowl.
Well, I don't like the matchup specifically for Kelce against those ILBs and the safeties in Baltimore. I am less spooked by Marlon Humphrey and the rest of the cats they have on the outside, though, these days. Marlon Humphrey, talk about guys probably a little bit past their best days. I think he fits that description. With the Eagles and the Chiefs losing, Lions fans probably thought they could lose at the Bears and no one would notice. Well, guess what? Dave Dameshek noticed. I see what happens all over football America each and every week, and I see you, Detroit. My gut is telling me I don't want to go frauds, but maybe not ready to be up there with the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Eagles.
They're frauds.
You're going to say it. And this is because they play in the state of Michigan. Is that why you have cross feelings towards them?
I know
they're choking. How say you?
I know I said that the team up north is probably going to win it all, but they're frauds. I don't think that Detroit Lions are who they say they are. They're a tough team, but at the beginning of the season they play well, and then now they're starting to have very questionable games and losses to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. What people fail to realize, I don't know if it was 3 weeks ago, they played the Bears, and the Bears had them beat, but they ended up figuring out a way to squiggle a win out at the end. The Bears this time was like, no, we're dogging you. We're gonna beat you this time. The Lions, you can't be up and down. Jared Goff can't one day have a good week, then one day have a bad week. To me, if you're trying to be a real contender, especially in the NFC, which you have 3 heavy top dogs right there, that's basically saying, hey, I understand Jalen Hurts is not even playing. He's not playing the greatest ball, but they're still putting points up and they're still winning games. Jalen Hurts is not really out here having bad games at the rate that some of the bad games that Jared Goff is having. So to me, I don't really believe it now. At the beginning of the season, I really believed it because I was like, man, the Lions, they're running the ball. They're being very physical, but then you're starting to slip up to the Bears. The Bears really have their number, but it just, I don't know how they figure. Obviously, if you get a win is a win. And I remember when the Ravens first beat the Steelers this year, the Ravens was like, they didn't beat us. We lost the game. It's like, obviously the win's a win, but that's how the game happened last time with the Bears. The Bears lost the game. The Lions really didn't take it from them. And so, and I think in this situation, the Bears was like, we're going to continue to put the ball in Justin Fields' hands, and we're going to continue to allow this quarterback to help us win this game. And that's exactly what they did. And if the Bears can do that and they don't really have a lot of weapons over there, imagine what some of these top dogs can do with all the weapons that they have around there.
Hey, by the way, 3-0 win for the Vikes. The Packers lose to the Giants. The Bears might be playing the best ball in the NFC North. The thing to root for NFC North faithful for the rivalry and the narrative of it is for those Lions as the presumed 3 seed to catch either the Packers or the Vikings in round 1. The only thing that stinks about it is that it's an NFC North playoff game in January and it would be under a dome. Fat! Rip it off. Play it in Ann Arbor. Do it outside. It's the way God intended it to do. Hey, you know what? Let's wrap it up here. Let's take a breath and get some quick hitters here. It's time to roll out the nickel package, okay?
That's great.
5 questions, 5 very brief answers, 5-0. Are you all set?
Yes, sir.
You know what? Guess what? I'm pulling an audible here because we were just talking about the Bears. Should the Bears keep Justin Fields or draft a QB?
So the thing is, when it comes to the Bears,
fast. I'm sneaking this one in 5-0.
The thing when it comes to the Bears, I don't like even flus. So if they get a coach that is a quarterback-centric coach, a coach that can help Justin to grow and develop, when you watch Justin, when you put the ball in his hands and allow him just to cook, he plays really well. But when you try to force him to be Tom Brady back there, that's when the offense doesn't play well. So allow him to move around. Allow him to shred the ball when he wants to shred it. In my honest opinion, get rid of the coach, keep Justin, bring in a guy like Marvin Harrison, bring in some more weapons, and allow Justin to continue to cook. You could trade that pick, get Marvin with another pick, and then now you have a bunch of other weapons that you can develop around him, in my opinion. I don't think they need to try to, or you could trade Justin, try to get Caleb Williams, but then you can get Caleb Williams if you still have the same scheme, same coaching staff. Caleb Williams could probably be looking like Bryce Young this year. So in my opinion, you already know what you're going to get with Justin Fields, and you know he's constantly getting better when you show trust in him.
Fields has looked good enough in the last handful of weeks that I think that there would be some buyers who might be willing to offer up, I don't know, a first-round draft pick given where he is in his rookie contract, but there would be a market for him if the Bears do want to move on and draft one of those fancy QBs. Yes.
Would you take him for the Steelers?
I'm conflicted. We have to settle much hash before we get to that. Do I want him on the Steelers? Playing for whom? Is Mike Tomlin back next year? There's too much to think about. Let's move on. You don't put me on the spot, Shazier. I put you on the spot. Deion Sanders says that Colorado making the college football player next year. It's not a hope, he says. It's an expectation. 5-0, the Buffs won 4 games this year. What team is he watching?
That's what people fail to realize right now when it comes to college football. It's not about, let's develop these guys and then, work their way up. Obviously, Ohio State still does it. Alabama still does it. Georgia still does it. But a lot of these other teams that's starting to get into the mix more now, schools like, LSU, they just got Jaden Daniels who won the MVP, the Heisman. All those transfers that came into Florida State, now their team looked amazing. So it's not about building up a young guy. It's not about that no more. So Deion understands, hey, I have the talent. I don't know if his son Shedeur is leaving or if he's staying. If Shedeur stays, he has Travis Hunter, who's a good receiver / corner. And now what people fail to realize is Deion, he might not be the greatest when it comes to recruiting a kid out of high school, but he also just did get a 5-star O-lineman. But he understands how to get guys to transfer in there. Colorado is the #1 school in transfers this year. So he already got 4 interior linemen. He also has a lot of other weapons because he understands going to the Big 12. The Big 12 is not going to be as difficult as the Pac-12 was last year. You have the 2 top dogs leaving in Texas and Oklahoma. So it's allowing a lot less struggle in your calendar compared to what he had last year in his first year. And now he's going to actually get the guys and the pieces in to be able to play. So with them moving to a lesser conference, in my opinion, than what they were just in, and then also keeping all the guys and getting O-linemen, I could definitely see them turning this around in a heartbeat because you only need to be top 11. You only need to be top 11 and you get in.
Well, yeah, right. The playoff, right. The expanded playoff. You're right about that part. Yeah, the biggest thing, I think, is Shedeur needs to stick around for another season if he wants to get his old man or his old man wants to get into that playoff, because that's everything. You're right that they did beef up at the offensive line. A lot of high pedigree guys have now transferred over the last 6 weeks as things started to implode there. And year-to-year win totals for all the noise in Boulder in September of this year, the win total didn't increase by more than 1 or 2? I don't think so. You're talking about a major jump in terms of wins between now and 2024 for them to be in the playoffs. They can't lose a couple of games and still get in. To your point about the Big 12, it doesn't present as a weighty enough conference to justify a 2-loss team getting into that playoff unless they win the whole thing. But this is the magical time where you get to shoot your mouth off about what's going to happen next year. It's also the magical time of the year when teams start contemplating coaching changes. You mentioned one that you propose up in Chicago. I mean, this could really be an all-timer, though. Pete Carroll's name is kind of in the mix as maybe a guy who would move on at his age and tenure. Same for Bill Belichick. Same, too, for your NFL football coach, Mike Tomlin. How say you here, Shazier?
So for the relationship that I have with him, and I haven't talked to him about this recently. I don't really like talking to him about like this type of stuff moving on. But I remember talking to him when I was playing. And right after I got done playing, I was like, Coach, you remember when they were saying all this stuff about you coaching college? He was like, man, like, why would I want to coach college? coaching in the NFL, this is where the best guys are at, the best coaches are at. And he's like, and I don't have to recruit. So to me, in my honest opinion, I don't see Coach Tomlin leaving. I feel if he walks away from the game, if he walks away from the Steelers, I could probably see him, hanging up his cleats or hanging up his, tablet.
Well, wait a second. You
sweater.
kind of jumped. Here's what I think. I think I'm just reading tea leaves. I could see him if Jim Harbaugh's going to move on. You hear Rich Eisen saying in public forums that, hey, maybe Mike Tomlin's tired of Western Pennsylvania. That to me is winking in a way. I wouldn't want to spend as a grown man my dreary winter time, especially if I was in the Midwest up in Michigan. I wouldn't want to spend it, or Pittsburgh or otherwise. I wouldn't want to spend it in January and February going into the living rooms of strangers to try and charm their 17-year-old to come to my college. That would not be my idea of a good time. And I get completely what Tomlin's talking about. Although his kids are grown and everything else, maybe he wants a new challenge. I don't know. Maybe the standard is somehow different or presents as more appealing than it did 2 years ago. I remember him getting angry when those USC rumors came up. Those were just a couple years ago, but I don't know about that. And by the way, the Steelers could conceivably trade him. That's what his friend Jay Glazer is talking about this week, that maybe Washington could be in. I could also see Newport News guy wanting to go back to that place. It's relatively close to Pittsburgh, but it'd be that much closer to his origin story. So I completely could see that maybe Mike Tomlin, the idea that this would all be motivated by Art Rooney or the Steelers side of things, discounts the fact that Mike Tomlin might have also maybe feel at this point like, yeah, you know what, 18 years, long time. Maybe I should seek a new challenge or move on from this one.
I just don't see it.
You know better than I do.
Just from personal experience, I don't see it. But this team is a younger team. He's dealt with a lot of older teams, and I just don't see him change. I just don't see him leaving to go coach another job. If I see him leaving to basically retire so he can start watching his daughter in gymnastics meets, going to his son's games. Like, I know that to him, that stuff is very important. And as a head coach of a football team where your kids are all over the country playing sports, it's really hard for you to be there on a consistent basis. So in my opinion, I think if he was to leave, it would be more of him leaving to become, just regular Mike instead of being, Coach Tomlin for the Commanders. But hey, money talks too, though. So
I don't have a personal relationship with the man, so I'll defer to you on all that. I could see him just, obviously there's an intensity to an NFL head coaching gig. Maybe he just wants to walk away and put his feet up. Maybe he feels like there's been a change in the structure of how things flow. Obviously, when he came in, Dan Rooney was the nominal head of things, and now R2 is, and there was a different general manager, and that's changed, and Ben Roethlisberger out, and new quarterback situation. Maybe that all amounts to him just feeling like, you know what, it's time. I've done a lot of great work here, and like I say, new challenge or maybe no challenge is what appeals to him going forward here. Moving on, Sean Payton. You remember he retired for a year. He broadcasted, and now he's coaching the Denver Broncos. He was real harsh this summertime, and a lot of people reacted to it with his remarks about Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos last year, and then he had to eat a lot of crow after his team allowed the Dolphins to score 70 on him in September. But now, all of a sudden, the team's a mile high. They're just on the outside of the playoffs, and Payton may end up getting the last laugh. Do you think this team gets into the postseason, Shazier?
With the way that their defense has been playing, I know they gave up 70 points at the beginning of the season, but the way that this defense is playing and the way that they're being able to run the ball, Russ is cooking, but he's not Chef Boyardee. He's not, Ratatouille. He's out here just, he's just cooking up spaghetti and noodles, you know what I'm saying? And allowing the team just to do very conservative, but very efficient things. And with this team, with the defense playing the way that they're playing, the way they're running the ball, they're not turning the ball over. Man, you got to think about this. They're one game out. They're one game behind the Chiefs right now. Literally one game behind the Chiefs. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if this team makes their way into the playoffs. And if they do make their way into the playoffs, this is not a team that a lot of people want to see because they're going to have the experience in Russell Wilson when it comes to just knowing how to make plays in that moment. And then they're going to also have the experience with their coach winning the Super Bowl and knowing the play calls and knowing the atmosphere and knowing what to do in that moment. One place that people don't want to go in the wintertime in the playoffs is the Mile High Stadium. Because if they mess around and get the AFC West and win that division, now people have to go up to Denver, and it's hard to play there, man. It's hard. It's hard to breathe for the first half of the game. Like literally the first half of the game, it's hard to breathe. It's going to be extremely cold. It's probably going to be snowing. So it's a lot of things that will be in their favor. Like that's one of the best home environments when you're just talking about natural environments to play in the playoffs. So this is a team that I think with the coaching and the team understanding how that they want to win games, I think this would be a scary team to see in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win no championship or anything like that, but it'll be a scary team to see in the playoffs.
I don't mean to be a cynic. They're not going to win the division. Look at what the Chiefs have left. They're going to hold them off. But I do think the Broncos are obviously playing real well here, and it's not a little couple week heater that they're on here. This has been, what is it, 6 out of the last 7. The Broncos have a real chance to win out here. And I do think that's going to still leave them a game behind the Chiefs when it's all said and done. But I'm with you. I do think, and it's easy to throw out there, yeah, they're going to get to the playoffs, but go through all the teams, what all the teams in contention have. There's that mess, as we've been talking about, the sea of mediocrity that is existing there in that AFC middle class. Go through what everybody has left, and it does kind of reveal that the Broncos should get there unless they fall off a cliff themselves. But, the way they've played for literally half the season now, this half stretch that they're in, hard to turn your nose up at them. Same goes for the Giants, who were 2-7, and they were forced to start an undrafted rookie. I don't know if you've been following this one. It's really kooky stuff. Now Tommy DeVito, a.k.a. Tommy Cutlets, a.k.a. the passing paisano, has led them to 3 wins in a row, and they're talking about a playoff run only possible in the NFC and how crummy that conference is this year. All of this while he still lives at home with his parents. Is this guy for real, 5-0?
You know what's so crazy? He has Brock Purdy vibes when it comes to me. Like just the way that and I'm not saying that he plays like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, the way he's playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he won the MVP. But when I mean Brock Purdy vibes, when Brock Purdy was with the 49ers, nobody really believed that he was going to be able to do what he was able to do. Nobody thought he was going to be able to come make a real difference. With Tommy DeVito at quarterback, they're 3-1. They're understanding he's not turning the ball over. They're understanding how to put the position, like he is, obviously everybody turn the ball over, but he's putting the position in for this team to win. They're running the ball well. The defense is playing well. It's just very sound ball. They're constantly around that 20 point margin. So when you're getting 20 plus points in the NFL, it's very easy to win games. So man, it's crazy that he still lives with his parents, but it also shows how he humbled himself and understand, hey, I'm about to do what's best for myself and make smart financial decisions. A lot of players are willing to humble themselves to still live with their parents.
Well, I'll tell you what it proves to me is that I always feel like college sports are much more fun when all the kids on the team are from the region itself. That's how college football and college basketball mostly were when I was growing up. Now it's, with the NIL, and even before all that, you get lured by the prestige of the program and all that. Wouldn't it be great if just what about if it just one football season, you had to play for the team that you lived closest to? Isn't this charming stuff, Tommy DeVito? Everybody in the stands gets it. Everybody with the Sopranos jokes, borderline politically incorrect. I get it, but still, it's fun. Wouldn't it be fun if everybody, and we could settle some real hash here. Soccer has the World Cup. Why doesn't the NFL for 1 year? Let's have the City Cup and see which football town is the best in America. So I think Miami would do very well. Miami would do well.
They'll do really well. They don't have they will have a Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. Yeah, I was about to say they would do really well. But it's tough because you have to think about it. Like Aaron Donald will play for the Steelers, but then you will have Jordan Addison playing for the Steelers.
I haven't figured it out yet. If it's their college affiliation. Okay, so look, we're cooking with gas here.
With the offense side of the ball, the Steelers going to be
Sky Moore.
Yeah, Sky Moore. Then you have, James Conner. So like that would be kind of cool. I would be in Miami as well. Like the Miami team would be super stacked, but like Atlanta would be stacked, California would be stacked. So it's like the bigger states. The bigger states will be really stacked. Houston and Dallas, those teams will be super stacked as well. So and then Chicago will be good as well. So
I'm onto something here.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool idea. You probably should go to the NFL and trademark it first so they'll take your idea.
I already did it 10 years ago. Anyhow, moving on. Kyle McCord is officially transferred to Nebraska. Who's going to be the Buckeyes QB next year, Shazier?
Man, this is a short one.
Put in a good word for me, would you? Because I could do it. I still have eligibility.
This is a short one. So, I love this is the one thing. I'm not trying to say anything crazy, but black quarterbacks normally do better at Ohio State than it seems like white quarterbacks do at Ohio State. So, with that being said, there's only one player that I want us to go after. His name is Cameron Ward. He played for Wazoo or Washington State. He is a very good player. We have the best receivers in college football as a collective. Even if Marvin leaves, we still have probably the best collective of receivers. So I think I could see him coming to a place like us where he can actually throw it to some guys. He was throwing for 300-400 yards, and you can't name one of the receivers on his team. So I think that he'll be a really good player. Or Dante Moore, the guy that was at UCLA.
Hey, congratulations. You're like the New York Yankees of college football. You can just throw around your weight and some money, NIL deals and all that, and you'll get another guy. Where's the honor? Where's the soul in that, Shazier? My way is a better way. You have to be from the region or you get shown the door. You're from Indiana? Go play for Purdue or the Hoosiers. Get out of here. We're all Ohio State.
The thing is, though, we also have a young rising star in Aaron Norland, who coming in from Georgia as well. So it's gonna be nice being a Buckeye fan next year.
Oh, wow. Nice change of pace for you. Congratulations in advance. Hey, that's it for this episode of Gridiron Gut Check.
Make sure to follow, rate, and review the show on wherever you're listening. Also, check us out on YouTube on the Wondery channel. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. See you all next week.